There are two toothbrushes in our bathroom, one blue, one pink. Hers was always pink, and she was meticulous about it. Always left it upright, dry, and spotless like it was a damn ornament instead of something that scrapes plaque. So imagine my curiosity when I walked in and saw two pink toothbrushes in the holder, both freshly used. Bristles flared like they'd been fighting each other in someone's mouth. That was the moment everything snapped, quietly, without fanfare. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I didn't even touch them. I just stood there, staring at those plastic liars like they were whispering secrets too vulgar for human ears. See, it wasn't the brushes themselves. It was what they represented. One of them was mine. One of them had to be mine. But I hadn't brushed yet. Hadn't even taken my damn jacket off. That meant someone else had been here, using her pink toothbrush, in our bathroom, in my house, while I was at work making money so she could figure things out. Her words, not mine. She wanted time, space, healing. And I, like a fool, had agreed. Because she cried. Because her mother called me and said, "Don't throw away a marriage over one mistake." Because she said he meant nothing. Because I wanted to believe. So I moved back in after 3 weeks apart, slept on the couch, cooked dinner, played husband. Rebuilding trust, they called it. Therapy, empathy, modern masculinity. A story of arrogance, of comfort, of someone who believed she had me wrapped up again. That I'd fall back into line. That the dog would return no matter how many times he got kicked. She got home 30 minutes later, talking fast, carrying takeout in a brown bag like some peace offering, like noodles would fix betrayal. I watched her face as she walked past the bathroom and glanced in, just for a second, just enough to notice the scene she'd forgotten to reset. Her pupils dilated. Her lips twitched. That fraction of a second told me everything. She hadn't expected me home this early. She hadn't expected me to notice. She certainly didn't expect me to be calm. But I was. Because that's the difference between rage and resolve. Rage screams. Resolve plans. I said nothing that night. Ate the noodles. Laughed at her joke. Kissed her forehead. I became the man she remembered. The one who brought flowers for no reason. Who made breakfast on Saturdays. Who texted her dumb memes at work. I dug deep into that role. Wore it like armor. Until her guilt began to morph into affection. And then back into entitlement. That's how cheaters work. They don't fear forgiveness. They feed on it. They turn your mercy into a mirror and make you question your own worth. But not me. Not anymore. I wasn't just playing the good husband. I was rehearsing for her downfall. Every dinner with her parents, I was stacking trust. Every laugh with her friends, laying foundations. Every, "I love you," was just another nail in her coffin. I made her believe she had won, that I had returned, that our marriage was not only salvageable, but thriving. And then, when her parents sat me down one night, proud smiles and soft voices, thanking me for my patience and telling me how glad they were to see her happy again, that's when I knew it was time to start the real performance. Because what they didn't know, what she didn't know, was that I had the entire story. Every text, every photo, every location ping. The full truth, neatly backed up and time-stamped. Her affair wasn't a one-time slip. It was an ongoing campaign. A second life. A shadow version of our marriage where she got to be carefree and desired and irresponsible. I had it all, and I wasn't going to use it in a courtroom or a Facebook post. No, that would be too easy. I was going to use it in whispers, in looks, in the slow erosion of her support system. One word to her mother. I know it wasn't just one time. One photo shown to her father. He came to the house. Along, heart-to-heart with her sister. "She used your couch when I was away." Not anger. Not accusation. Just sadness. Just honesty. Just enough for the truth to bloom inside their heads like mold. And like mold, it would spread. It would rot everything from the inside. Until the next family dinner, when I wouldn't show up. Until the next time she needed someone to cry to, and they'd say, "You brought this on yourself." Until the day she realized she wasn't just losing a husband. She was losing everyone who ever mattered. Not with a bang. Not with rage. But with a toothbrush, quietly telling the truth. She said she wanted to grow. That's how it started. Quietly, gently, like a soft knock on a door you didn't even realize was closed. One evening, she came home with a new haircut and said, "I just needed a change." I told her she looked beautiful, because she did, but something about the way she responded, just a tight smile and a distracted "thanks," felt like I was clapping for a show I hadn't been invited to. Then came the books. Titles like Radical Self-Love and Boundary Queen, stacked on her nightstand like scripture. She started journaling, meditating, saying things like, "I'm learning to put myself first," which I encouraged. Genuinely, I wanted her happy. I wanted us happy. But soon, the journaling replaced our evening conversations. The meditating bled into dinner time. She began requesting quiet mornings, told me she needed mental clarity before starting her day, and it wasn't just a mood shift. It was like she'd rearranged the furniture of her soul, and I didn't know where to sit anymore. She smiled, sure, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. When I made her coffee in the morning, she said thank you with the same tone you'd use for a cashier handing back change. It wasn't cold, exactly. Just absent, like she was somewhere else. At first, I told myself it was a phase. People evolve. Relationships ebb and flow. But the gaps kept widening. She started going to more work events, happy hours, conferences, late-night meetings that always ended too late and with her smelling like a perfume I didn't recognize. She claimed she was networking. I wanted to believe her. I reminded myself of her dreams, how she used to talk about climbing the ladder, becoming someone who mattered. So I supported her. I cooked dinner when she came home late. I rubbed her feet when she said she was exhausted. I stopped asking questions when her stories didn't line up because I didn't want to be controlling. That's the word she started using more often, controlling. She accused me of being too involved, said I needed hobbies, said I shouldn't expect to be her whole world. But I never did. I just wanted to be part of it. Instead, she built a new one and left me standing on the outside, staring through the glass. I began noticing things. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, now glued to her hand like an extra limb. Her laughter loud, unfiltered, when she texted someone late at night, only to go quiet when I walked into the room. Her clothes, a little more daring. Her schedule, a little more elusive. And then there was the day I found the charger in her car. A second one, not the one she always used. This one was new, identical to mine. But I hadn't left it there. She said it must have been from work. A coworker, maybe. I nodded, said nothing. But I felt it, this tightening in my chest that wouldn't go away. She started locking the bathroom door. Who does that in a marriage? I hadn't seen her naked in weeks, maybe longer. I noticed she began wearing makeup to run errands. She created a second Instagram, claimed it was just for a book club, then blocked me from seeing it. I only found out when one of her posts showed up in a mutual friend's feed. A selfie. A caption about freedom and finding joy. I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't in any of her photos anymore. She started using words like alignment and energy in arguments. Said I was draining hers. That she needed to protect her peace. I stopped asking where she was going. Not because I didn't care, but because I was terrified of the answers I might get. One night, I heard her laugh in the bathroom while on the phone. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard in months. I listened from the hallway like a ghost, heart beating so loud I thought it would shatter the tiles beneath my feet. When she came out, she looked surprised to see me. Not guilty. Just surprised, like I was a minor inconvenience interrupting her evening. "Oh," she said, brushing past me. "I thought you were asleep." And that was it. No explanation. No attempt to hide it. Just pure, casual dismissal. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when exactly she stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as furniture. Something functional. Present. Predictable. Replaceable. Still, I held on. I told myself it was stress. Hormones. A phase. I kissed her forehead every morning, made her lunch, asked her how her day was, even when her answers grew shorter, colder. She was becoming someone new, and she didn't seem to care if I kept up. But I did. I tried. God, I tried. Because I wanted to believe we were just bending, not breaking. I wanted to believe she still loved me, even if the way she looked at me said otherwise. I convinced myself that all marriages had these moments, dips, valleys, confusion. That love wasn't constant, that commitment meant staying even when it was hard. But deep down, I knew. I could feel the cracks forming beneath my feet, subtle but dangerous, like ice shifting beneath a frozen lake. And I was still out there, smiling in the cold, pretending the ice wasn't groaning. Pretending I couldn't see the water rising up through the seams. She left her laptop open. That was the only mistake she made that day, and it was barely even a mistake, just a moment of casual arrogance, the kind you develop when you truly believe the person living with you is too soft, too trusting, too broken to notice anymore. It was a Sunday morning, rain tapping the windows like a gentle metronome. She'd made herself a smoothie, kissed my cheek, said she was going to yoga, then vanished out the door wearing her favorite black leggings and that neon tank top she only wore when she wanted to be noticed. I stayed behind, folding laundry, pretending this was still a home. Her laptop chimed once. Then again. I never touched her things, never needed to. But something about the sound, the timing, the rhythm, it pulled me like a string around my spine. I walked over. 2 messages. A name I didn't recognize. Evan Fallen Leaf. Not saved as a full contact. Not marked as anything special. Just a name with a leaf emoji, as if to say, this is seasonal. Temporary. Discreet. I clicked. It was already open. The thread was long. They'd been talking for months. Pages of her affection poured into someone else's hands. Last night was perfect. I still smell you on my skin. He doesn't even look at me the way you do. That one hit. Not because it was graphic. Not because it was cruel. But because it was true. I stared at the screen, watching her words fold everything I believed about our life into a quiet, unrecognizable death. Pictures followed. Her in that neon tank top, at night. In front of a mirror I didn't recognize. Her hair tousled, her eyes half closed. Captions like, I wish you were here again. She wasn't at yoga. She hadn't been at yoga for weeks. I saw a selfie of them at a bar downtown, timestamp Thursday night. She told me she was working late on a proposal. I had made her lasagna. Lit candles. Waited up. And she was laughing with him, sharing a whiskey neat, the drink I introduced her to, the one she used to call her happy place. I didn't scroll anymore. I didn't need to. It was all there, the betrayal, the lies, the complete erasure of who we used to be. But what broke me wasn't the photos. Wasn't the texts. It was the final message, the one she sent as she left the house that very morning. Same time, same place. He's making eggs. Faced with rolling eyes, I had been making eggs. For her. Scrambled with spinach and goat cheese, just how she liked. And while I plated her breakfast, while I sprinkled paprika like some loyal, loving idiot, she was telling another man I was nothing but background noise. An inconvenience. A parody of a husband. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I closed the laptop, wiped the counter, and sat down at the kitchen table, my hands folded, my face blank. The silence inside me was surgical. Cold. Absolute. There was no more confusion. No more wondering. I had always hoped the truth would bring me clarity. I never imagined it would bring me peace. But it did. Not the kind of peace you celebrate. The kind you prepare for war in. The kind that lets you sharpen your thoughts like blades. I began remembering things, not just recent ones, but all the moments she rewrote history with charm and crocodile tears. The weekend she visited her sister and came back glowing. The sudden love of expensive lingerie she never wore for me. The way she always showered the second she got home, even when she claimed she'd just run errands. And me, smiling, trusting, feeding the wolf while hoping it wouldn't bite. The worst part? She probably thought she was winning. Probably believed that she had me dancing again to her rhythm. That I'd accept the scraps of affection she threw from her pedestal while she indulged in secret pleasures. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't blind. I was patient. There's a difference. I sat at that kitchen table for a long time. Long enough for the eggs to go cold. Long enough to hear the front door creak open an hour later than she said she'd be back. I looked up at her as she stepped inside, yoga mat in hand, cheeks flushed from whatever exercise she'd actually been doing. She smiled. You okay, babe? She asked, setting her keys down. You look tired. I smiled back. Just a twitch of the lips. Just enough to say, I see you. Because now, finally, I did. I became invisible, and that was my greatest weapon. She moved through the house like nothing had changed, like I was still that dependable figure in the background, her reliable constant while she floated off into her new, secret life. But what she didn't see was that I'd stopped living with her. I was now observing her. Every routine became data, every word a data point to be tested. I started with small things. I asked her about her day a little earlier than usual, before she had time to rehearse. Her stories didn't match the timestamps on her location history, which I checked quietly through a shared Google account she forgot we still had. One day, she claimed she'd been at a yoga class from 5 to 6:30. But her phone had pinged at a wine bar across town at 5:17, then again near a residential building I didn't recognize at 6:12. I didn't confront her. I just nodded, said something about needing to stretch more myself, and logged the details. Then I called the yoga studio. Friendly voice. No record of her being there for the last 2 weeks. That was my first confirmed lie, but I wanted more. I needed depth. I installed a keystroke logger on our shared tablet, nothing too aggressive, just enough to monitor her browser activity. Within days, I had her search history, how to hide location on iPhone, best time to call affair partner without getting caught, and my personal favorite, emotional affair or real love. She was unraveling online in real time, while smiling at me across the dinner table. Her favorite phrase had become, "I'm working on myself," which I now interpreted as code for, "I'm cheating and hoping you don't look too close." I tested her reactions. I casually mentioned a coworker of mine who just found out his wife was having an affair. He said the weirdest thing tipped him off, I said, watching her face. He noticed she started hiding her mouth when she laughed. She flinched, just slightly, and reached for her water. I filed that under nervous tells. Then I started planning fake appointments in my calendar, syncing them with our cloud account so she'd believe I was at work during certain hours. I wasn't. I stayed close, always in the shadows. One afternoon, I scheduled a fake out-of-town meeting and parked my car 2 blocks from the house, watching through binoculars from behind tinted glass. Sure enough, a car I didn't recognize pulled up within an hour of my departure. A man stepped out. Tall, fit, confident. He rang the bell like he'd done it 100 times. I took photos. Clear ones. I followed him when he left. He went straight to a boutique gym, then to a loft downtown. That night, when she came home, I asked how her day was. Exhausting, she said. So many meetings. I smiled and handed her a glass of wine. You deserve to rest, I told her. But rest was not in the cards, not for me. I wanted names, dates, patterns. I created a fake profile using an old acquaintance's photo, someone she'd never met. I had him message her on Instagram, complimented her writing, asked about the book club. She responded. Within 2 days, she was flirting. Within 4, they were exchanging numbers. Within a week, she had made plans to get coffee and talk about literature, not knowing I was behind the screen. I didn't show up, of course. I just needed to know how easily she'd abandon the lie of monogamy when the opportunity presented itself. The answer was instantly. That same week, I logged into our joint bank account and scanned our history. She'd opened a separate Venmo account I didn't know about. There were weekly payments labeled consulting and event planning. Curious, I checked the addresses of those businesses. They didn't exist, but one of them matched the loft address of the man I'd followed. I now had his name, Evan. I even found his gym membership online. She was financing her affair under the guise of professional development. Creative, cowardly, predictable. She thought she was clever, weaving this fantasy life on top of our shared one like some kind of suburban spider queen. But every step she took, I was already 5 behind her, sweeping the floor for prints. I watched her more closely now, how she locked her phone with new gestures, how she kept her ringer off at all times, how she excused herself to the balcony to journal. Every lie was rehearsed, but I could hear the cracks in her voice, the pauses growing longer, the eyes darting quicker. She was spinning faster, unaware that the ground beneath her had already turned to ice. And I, calm, patient, surgical, was watching it all. Because you don't confront a liar when you catch them. You watch them build their tower taller, brick by arrogant brick. And then, when it's high enough, when they're standing proud at the top, you simply walk up, pull out one quiet stone, and let the whole thing collapse. It was her company's end-of-quarter party, cocktails, catered appetizers, cheap suits pretending to be expensive, and enough artificial smiles to fuel a politician's campaign. She insisted I come, said it was important to her that I show up, that it would mean a lot if we were seen together, that people had been asking about us. I agreed without hesitation. Dressed in navy blue, clean shave, polished shoes, her ideal image of the man she wanted the world to see beside her. She looked surprised when I stepped out of the car, but not in a good way. More like someone who hoped the ghost she buried wouldn't rise tonight. We entered together, and for the first hour I played my role to perfection. Hand on her back, a steady smile, laughing when appropriate. I met her manager. I met her team. I even chatted with a new intern she clearly didn't want me talking to. Then, right as the speeches began, I excused myself and walked to the projector booth. See, while she was busy rehearsing deceit, I had been rewriting the script. I had bribed the AV tech with a gift card and a handshake. Told him to cue a specific video file when I gave the nod. And as her manager raised his glass and toasted trust, teamwork, and transparency, I tilted my head slightly. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered. And there, 20 feet wide for the entire room to see, was my wife, in a parking garage, kissing Evan like a starving animal. It was security footage, grainy but unmistakable. Her hand on his neck, his on her waist. The timestamp visible. The location undeniable. For a second, there was only silence. Then murmurs. Then gasps. Her name whispered like a scandal in a church pew. I turned to her slowly, hands folded in front of me, not a tremble in sight. Her face had drained of color, lips parted in something between a scream and a sob, but no sound came out. She turned to me, eyes pleading. "It's not what it looks like," she said, almost reflexively, as if those words were a shield that hadn't already shattered. I didn't blink. She stepped closer. "We were just talking. He kissed me. I didn't mean to still." I said nothing. The room wasn't watching the screen anymore. They were watching her. "It was a mistake," she said, voice higher now, sharper, like panic was trying to claw its way up her throat. "You never paid attention to me. You were always so busy, so distant. What did you expect me to do?" Her fingers grabbed at the air between us like she could pull the lie back into her chest. "You pushed me away." I raised a single brow and finally spoke. "I made you dinner the night that was filmed." Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I stepped closer, not invading, just enough to ensure she could hear every syllable. "You left my table and went to him." The words weren't loud, but they didn't need to be. They landed like nails into wetwood. "I gave you my trust," I continued, "and you traded it for cheap flattery in a parking lot." She flinched like I'd struck her. "You want to talk about distance? You left this marriage a long time ago and hoped I'd be too blind to notice." She turned her head, searching for support, but the faces around us were stone, eyes full of judgment. A few coworkers had already slipped away. Her manager was staring at the ground. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't have to do this here. Please." And for the first time all night, I saw something genuine in her face, not confidence, not defiance, fear. That brittle kind that comes when someone finally realizes the mask they wore too long has turned to ash. She reached for my arm. I didn't move. "I can fix this," she whispered. "We can fix this. Just not here." But it had to be here. That was the point. Not revenge for revenge's sake. This was revelation. A mirror held to her image. She had paraded me in front of her colleagues like a trophy spouse while secretly dragging my name through motel sheets. I wanted her to feel what I had felt, the violation, the confusion, the helplessness, except I wanted her to feel it while surrounded by witnesses, with nowhere to run. "You asked me to come tonight," I said, voice low. "You said it would mean something." Her eyes glistened. "I didn't know you knew." "I did." The projector clicked off. Lights returned. The room pretended to breathe again. Her face was frozen in that in-between expression of humiliation and disbelief. I didn't move. I didn't storm out. I stood there, silent, still, watching her world crumble with the same quiet precision she'd used to dismantle mine. And I waited. Not to see if she'd cry. Not to hear another excuse. I waited because the moment wasn't over. Not yet. She followed me out of the building like a storm chases the calm, her heels clicking like gunshots against the pavement, voice rising with every step. And the moment we were alone behind the glass of my parked car, she exploded. "How dare you do that in front of my colleagues?" She screamed, hands flailing, breath ragged, as if the betrayal was mine and not the other way around. "You ambushed me. You embarrassed me." I didn't answer. I unlocked the car and leaned against the door, calm as still water, watching her unravel. "You think that makes you a man?" She spat, voice cracking. "You think setting me up in front of everyone makes you powerful?" She paced now, clawing through her hair, looking for a target, a handle, something to grab onto in a world that had just tilted beneath her. "You smothered me. That's what you did. Every damn day, it was you always there, always watching, like I couldn't breathe without checking in with the warden." Her eyes burned. I still said nothing. She stepped closer. "You were boring. You know that?" She hissed, low and sharp. "Predictable. Safe. No fire. No danger. Just a paycheck and a dinner plate. That's not love. That's prison." I tilted my head slightly, studying her as if she were a puzzle I'd already solved. "You married it," I said, quiet, surgical. She blinked like she'd been slapped. "You were never enough," she said, now louder, shriller, panic seeping into every vowel. "You think this is about him? It's not. It's about you. You weren't a man. You were a shell, a routine, and I was rotting inside of it." My eyes didn't move. "Then why lie?" I asked. "Why come home every night and eat the food made by a shell? Why crawl into bed with a routine? Why cry in my arms after you told him goodbye for the third time?" She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. You didn't want passion, I continued, each word like a scalpel slicing through the remnants of her facade. You wanted escape. You wanted attention. You wanted to be pursued while keeping the security blanket warm. And when I stopped chasing, you ran faster, not because I failed, but because I wasn't enough for your fantasy. Her lip trembled. Stop twisting things. You don't know what it's like to feel unloved. I smiled, small and cold. You looked me in the eyes every day and called that love. Don't talk to me about pain. She took a step back, arms crossing over her chest like armor she forgot how to wear. You can't just erase everything we had, she said, voice faltering, reaching now for sentiment. You can't just act like none of it mattered. I'm not acting, I said. I'm remembering. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care. Not because I was cruel, but because I had already buried whatever part of me used to ache for her. That man was gone, and she knew it. That was what scared her the most. Not the exposure, not the fallout, not even the collapse of her carefully maintained narrative, but me. The version of me that no longer begged, no longer questioned, no longer reached for pieces of her approval like scraps from a king's table. Please, she said, softer now, the venom gone, replaced by something almost human. We can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can take a trip. Start over. You don't have to throw it all away. I stepped forward, slow and precise, until we were nearly face to face. You threw it away the moment you looked at another man like he was home, I whispered. You burned the house down. I'm just watching the ashes. She shook her head, tears finally spilling over. You used to love me. I did, I replied. And you killed that man with every lie you told while holding my hand. Her mouth trembled. I didn't mean to hurt you. I stared at her, unflinching. You didn't care if you did. That silence afterward was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. She stood there, hollowed out by her own choices, waiting for a scream that never came, begging for an argument that never started. Because she still had weapons, but none of them worked anymore. Not on me. Not now. And that silence, my silence, was the final thing she couldn't control. I didn't leave that night. I didn't pack a bag or slam a door. I went home with her, silent in the passenger seat while she drove like a prisoner being escorted back to the scene of her crime. She thought silence meant she still had time, that she could talk her way out of it, manipulate the pieces, cry in the right tone, beg in the right words. But I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. She didn't understand that when I stopped speaking, I started calculating. The house was still, untouched, like the betrayal hadn't sunk into the walls yet, but it had. While she cried in the bathroom and rehearsed her next move, I logged into our accounts and changed every password. Bank, email, mortgage, insurance. Everything we shared was now under my name alone. I had prepared for this, slowly, over weeks of suspicion turned certainty. She thought she was navigating uncharted territory, but I had already drawn the map. Her access was revoked quietly. I canceled her credit card and froze the joint account. She didn't notice. She wouldn't until she tried to use it. I removed her as a beneficiary on my life insurance, deleted her from my emergency contacts, rerouted all mail to a P.O. box I'd set up months ago. I contacted our financial advisor and scheduled a meeting, alone. I prepared a folder with dates, receipts, screenshots of Venmo transactions labeled consulting, and calendar entries that perfectly overlapped with the affair. I printed everything, found it like a report. I labeled it Evidence, Marital Misconduct. While she paced and stared at her phone, waiting for Evan to respond to whatever desperate text she was probably sending, I was filing the paperwork for divorce online. No arguments. No confrontation. Just boxes ticked and signatures typed. I attached the evidence packet and included a clause requesting full control of the marital home based on adultery and financial deceit. She had no prenup, no leverage, and soon, no standing. I didn't stop there. I drafted a letter to her employer, polite, professional, carefully worded, stating concern over inappropriate workplace conduct that could result in liability. I included the bar photo. I never sent it. Not yet. That was a last resort card, and I played my hand slowly. I also wrote to her parents. No rage. Just the facts. Screenshots of messages. Photos. Timestamps. I told them I didn't need them to choose sides. I just wanted them to understand the reality. I sent it from a new email. She'd never trace it. I contacted our utility providers and began the process of transferring every account into my name. I owned the house before the marriage. The deed was in my name. She'd moved in with me. That would matter. And the documents I'd filed made sure of it. She would stay just long enough for me to extract what I needed. Then she would be out. I had already spoken with a locksmith about changing the locks the morning after I served her. I reached out to a friend of mine in real estate and began pre-listing the house, contingent on the divorce being finalized. I didn't need the house, but I wanted her to watch it vanish. That weekend, I invited her parents to dinner. She didn't know. I told them I wanted to discuss something important. They arrived with hopeful faces, clearly coached by her during whatever spin campaign she'd launched in the background. I welcomed them, served wine, sat them down. Then I placed the packet in front of them. Her mother's face collapsed. Her father went pale. I said nothing, just pointed to the date, the time, the caption, the truth. When she entered the room and saw them holding her shame in their hands, something inside her cracked. She started to speak. I raised a hand. You've said enough. And that was the end of it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I let her stew in the silence her lies created. Over the next few days, I watched her flail. She tried charm, tears, rage. She called the bank, denied. Called her job, still employed for now. Called her parents, unavailable. Called me, ignored. When the papers arrived, she stared at them like they were written in fire. I had waived spousal support, listed infidelity as grounds, and requested possession of all shared assets. She had no savings, no fallback, and no more control. Everything she thought she could juggle came crashing down, one calculated cut at a time. She still believed she could talk me down, that there was a version of this where I forgave her again. But what she didn't understand was that forgiveness requires respect. And she had burned through that long ago. I was no longer her husband. I was her reckoning. It was her niece's birthday party, small, intimate, backyard setting, the kind of gathering where everyone knows everyone, and nothing stays secret for long. I knew her entire family would be there. Her parents, her siblings, the cousin who used to worship her, even the childhood friend she still pretended was her bestie when it was convenient. She insisted I come, said it would look good, that it would mean a lot to the family if we appeared united. I agreed. I even helped wrap the gift. A scooter, pink and sparkling, the kind of innocent joy her presence no longer deserved to be near. We arrived together, and I watched her switch on that practiced smile, hugging relatives with exaggerated warmth, laughing just a little too loudly. But something was off. Her parents didn't rush to greet her. Her sister avoided her eyes. Her cousin's smile dropped the second she looked her way. I had sent the packet the day before, unfiltered. Photos, messages, the video. No commentary, just the truth. She thought she was still playing the game. She didn't realize the scoreboard had already been posted. She drifted from group to group, scanning faces, her laughter growing more brittle with each exchange. Someone asked her how work was going, and she stumbled through a vague answer. Another asked where that guy from the bar photo was from, and her smile twitched like a nerve hit too hard. The kids ran past, oblivious, but the adults were watching. And not with judgment, with disappointment, with knowing. Her mother barely spoke to her. Her father kept his back turned. Then, when her brother's wife pulled me aside and hugged me tight, whispering, "I'm so sorry for everything," I saw her freeze by the lemonade table. Her cup tilted. A drop spilled down her hand, but she didn't wipe it. Just stood there, staring, trying to piece together the fracture lines forming in real time. And then came the moment. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out quickly, desperate for relief, for control. I could see her face as she read it. One word from Evan. Blocked. Her hand trembled. She stared at the screen like it had just delivered her death sentence. She looked up, eyes scanning for me. I was sitting under the tree, legs crossed, calm as a Sunday breeze. We locked eyes. That was all. No words. No smirk. Just that look. The one that said, "I know, they know, and now you know." Her facade cracked. She walked over to her mother, stammering something about rumors and misunderstandings, but her mother stepped back without a word. Her sister turned away mid-sentence. Her cousin shook her head. The only sound was the wind through the branches and the laughter of children who had no idea their aunt had just been exiled in slow motion. She turned to me. "You did this," she whispered, voice quivering, mascara already smudging beneath her eyes. I didn't answer. She tried again, louder. "You're punishing me. You ruined my family." Her voice cracked on family. No one came to her defense. No one offered a tissue. Her smile broke into fragments as she tried to joke it off. Come on, guys, it's not like I murdered someone. But the silence swallowed her laugh. Her hands shook now. She looked around like a drowning woman searching for a lifeline. But there were none. Not anymore. Every bridge burned. Every mask melted. Her niece ran past again, laughing on the scooter we brought, and that did it. That innocence. That joy. It was like a mirror to everything she had lost. Her knees buckled slightly. She caught herself. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I watched. And that was what destroyed her. Not the evidence. Not the silence. But the fact that I stood there, whole, untouched, unmoved, while she crumbled in front of everyone she used to command. Her voice turned to pleading then. Please, she whispered. Please don't let this be the end. I tilted my head. Just slightly. And then, finally, I spoke. For words. This is the truth. Her breath caught like she'd been punched. She turned away, shoulders shaking, and for the first time since the affair began, she looked exactly like what she was, small. And I stayed. I stayed and watched her fall. Because justice doesn't need to shout. Sometimes, it just needs to stand still and let the guilty destroy themselves in the silence they once used to deceive. It happened at her father's retirement party, a formal garden affair with linen tables, catered wine, and a stage set up under the oak tree for speeches and family toasts. I hadn't planned to say anything. I had promised myself I'd be silent, collected, dignified, but she pushed. She saw me speaking with her mother, who now looked at me with quiet pity instead of forced tolerance, and something in her snapped. She marched over in heels that stabbed the grass like daggers and hissed, You just had to ruin today too, didn't you? Loud enough for heads to turn. I told her calmly, I didn't say a word. She laughed sharp, mocking, loud, and suddenly everyone was watching. No, you never say anything, do you? You just manipulate. Sabotage? You turned my family against me with your little sob story. Her father's eyes narrowed from the stage. Her mother clutched her wine glass tighter. You cheated, I said clearly, not loudly. All I did was show the truth. She flinched, but stepped forward. And you weren't exactly a saint. You were cold, controlling, obsessed with being the victim. A murmur rolled through the crowd. My brother stepped closer to me, just in case. Her cousin, arms crossed, watched her like a stranger. Controlling. I said, You mean when I paid the bills? Cooked your meals? Stayed loyal while you snuck around like a teenager with a secret boyfriend? Her face turned red. You never made me feel seen, she screamed. You made me feel like a piece of furniture. Someone nearby gasped. Her father started to rise. And Evan? I asked, voice still even. Was he furnishing your emotional needs in the back of that bar? Or in the gym parking lot? Which setting was the most romantic? That hit. She looked around, panicked now, desperate for someone to save her. You followed me? You stalked me, she snapped. You're insane. That's what you are. You're a sad, pathetic little man with nothing but bitterness and a camera roll full of betrayal. No, I said, stepping forward so everyone could hear. I'm the man who saw you clearly when no one else would. I'm the man who believed you when you said you wanted to build something together, who gave you every piece of himself. And what did you do? You sold it. You auctioned it off for attention and cheap compliments from a guy who dumped you the second the light came on. Her mouth opened to fire back, but I wasn't done. You lied with your mouth, with your eyes, with your silence. You manipulated every person in this room to believe you were the victim. And now, when the truth's laid bare, all you can do is scream and point fingers like a child caught stealing. Someone pulled out a phone. The crowd had gone fully silent. Her mother had tears in her eyes. Her best friend, once her partner in whispers, stood behind me now, arms crossed. You ruined everything, she whispered, voice cracking. No, I replied. You did. I just stopped covering for you. She lunged forward, pointing a trembling finger at me. You think you're so righteous. You think this makes you powerful? All you've done is prove you're vindictive and bitter and right, I interrupted. Don't forget right. Her voice broke into a scream then, wild and shrill. You never loved me. You loved the idea of me. You loved being needed, being the savior, being the good guy. No, I said again, my tone dropping to steel. I loved you even when you didn't deserve it. I loved you when you were selfish, manipulative, ungrateful. But I stopped the second you looked me in the eyes and lied without blinking. That's when love dies, when trust dies first. She broke then, visibly, audibly. Her face contorted. Her body shook. She let out a sound between a sob and a scream and dropped her wine glass on the grass. Her father, finally standing now, stared at her like he didn't recognize her. Her mother turned away. Her best friend walked off. Someone muttered, "Jesus Christ," and someone else whispered, "She really did it to herself." I didn't move. I let her collapse in front of the world she used to control, the stage she used to own. I let her drown in the silence that followed her rage. And then, slowly, I adjusted my jacket, turned without a single backward glance, and walked away. Not because I needed to, but because she needed to see what it looked like when a man who truly loved her finally, and forever, stopped caring. She moved out quietly, like a ghost retreating from its last haunted room, carrying bags that once represented her life, now reduced to proof of everything she lost. Within 2 weeks, her job was gone. Not because I made a call, but because reputations travel faster than resumes. Someone in HR saw the video. Someone else read the comments. Not a good fit for the company culture, they said. Her boss didn't defend her. Her coworkers didn't ask where she went. The silence was worse than the gossip. Her social media, once curated like a gallery of faux happiness, went dark. Her friend list dropped from hundreds to a scattered handful. People unfollowed, blocked, deleted. Her best friend, the one who used to cover for her, lie for her, celebrate her affairs like victories, never spoke to her again after the confrontation. Her parents stopped returning her calls. Her father sent her one text after the retirement party. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone I ever respected. Don't come home." Her mother, too broken to yell, simply left her on read. The cousin she used to mentor removed her from every family group chat. Weddings came and went without invitations. Holidays were celebrated without her. She tried to stay in the city, clinging to the last scraps of her old life, but even the neighbors began to avoid eye contact. One crossed the street when she approached. Another shut his gate just as she walked by. The bar where she met Evan refused her entry once word got around. Her gym locker was cleared out without notice. Eventually, she moved 2 towns away to a place with cheaper rent and no questions. She worked at a call center under a fake name, trying to rewrite her story for strangers who didn't know the past. Evan never came back, never answered her texts, blocked her on everything. The moment the secrecy turned to scandal, he disappeared like smoke. The affair that was once her escape hatch became a locked door to nowhere. And then, the messages started. At first, emails, long, apologetic, full of empty therapy words and rewritten history. Then came the texts. Shorter, more desperate. "Please just talk to me. I'm sorry. I still love you." She showed up once, outside my new place. Hair disheveled, makeup streaked, wearing that same coat she used to wear when she thought she had the world in her hands. She knocked once. Then again. When I opened the door, she smiled, small, trembling, like maybe, just maybe, I'd forgotten what she did. "I just wanted to talk," she said, voice cracking. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I miss who we were." I looked at her, and I saw everything, every lie, every betrayal, every time she said she loved me while deleting texts behind my back. I saw the woman who burned down a future for attention. And now, standing in the cold, with nothing left, she wanted to step back into the warmth. "I still think about you," she whispered. "Every day." I studied her face for a moment longer. Then I spoke, calm and clear. "Strange. I don't even remember your name anymore." She didn't cry. Not visibly. But her eyes dimmed like someone had cut the last wire keeping the lights on. She nodded slowly, stepped back, and walked away. No goodbye. Just silence. I closed the door. And felt nothing. Not rage. Not relief. Just clarity. She was no longer the woman I married. She was no one. And that's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't kill love instantly. It starves it, weakens it, until all that's left is dust and memory. And once it's gone for good. I didn't just survive her. I outgrew her. And if you're listening to this and you've been where I've been, if you've seen the truth behind someone's smile and wondered if you'll ever breathe freely again, just know, you will. You'll breathe deeper, stand taller. And one day, when they come crawling back, all you'll feel is gratitude that they're no longer yours. Thank you for listening to my story. Tell me, where are you from? And did you enjoy it?